Hi, I'm going to show you how to go from zero to hero on Carina by Rackspace. I'm going to install the Docker client software, sign up for Carina, create my first cluster, and create a new WordPress website on Carina, all in just a few minutes. Because Carina uses the standard Docker APIs, I'll need the Docker client installed in order to use it. I can see that when we try to type a Docker command, the command was not found. So I'll need to install Docker to move forward. We've created a tool called DVM, short for Docker Version Manager, that makes it really easy to install and use different versions of Docker. To install DVM, go to github.com/getcarina/dvm. Scroll down to the installation section and copy the short script that applies to you, whether you're running Linux or OS X or Windows. Paste the copied script into a terminal and press enter. DVM takes just a few seconds to install. To start using DVM right away, enter the source command displayed on the screen. To easily use DVM in future terminal sessions, you'll also want to add the script to your bash profile. Now I have DVM installed, so let's take a look at what it can do. DVM has several useful commands, but the one we're interested in right now is install. Type dvm install 1.9.1 to install that version of the Docker client. As soon as this command finishes, we're able to use the Docker client. When I type docker info, I no longer see the command not found error that we had before. The client still complains that it can't connect to the Docker daemon, which is to be expected. The Docker daemon will run on a cluster in Carina, which we'll set up right now. To sign up for Carina, go to getcarina.com. I'll enter my email address, a strong password, and click Sign Up. I'll receive an email with a link to validate my email address. I'll click this link and see that my email address has been verified, so I can now log in. I'll enter my email address and password again and click Log In. The first time I log in, I'll be asked to do one final confirmation via text message. I'll enter my mobile phone number, then enter the 4-digit code that I receive in a text message. Now that I've confirmed my account, I can click Add Cluster. I'll give my cluster the unoriginal name of Test. The cluster will start building right away and will take about a minute before it's ready to use. Once the cluster's status changes to active, I can click Get Access to download my credentials for the cluster. This will download a file named test.zip to wherever my web browser is configured to save downloads. Back in my terminal, I can unzip the downloaded file to extract its contents. I'm typing unzip and then the path to the file, but you could also do this with your operating system's GUI by double-clicking the zip file. I can see that I've extracted several files, but the ones I'm really interested in are docker.cmd, docker.env, and docker.ps1. These are scripts that will tell my Docker client software to use my newly created Carina cluster as its Docker daemon. If I were using the classic command prompt on Windows, I'd run docker.cmd. If I were using PowerShell in Windows, I'd run docker.ps1. Because I'm using Linux though, I'll type source and then the path to docker.env. Take a look at your extracted README file for more information on what to do with these scripts. Now if I inspect my current environment, I can see that a few Docker-related variables have been set. Most important here is docker_host, which is the address of my Carina cluster. Docker cert path, which is the location of the certificates that authenticate me with my cluster, and docker_version, which is the version of Docker being used by my Carina cluster. My cluster is using version 1.9.1, which is the same version I installed earlier with DVM. Now I can type docker info to get some information about my Carina cluster. There's not much running right now, but I can see that I have 12 CPUs and 4 GB of memory to work with. Let's start a few containers to run a WordPress site. WordPress needs a MySQL database, so I'll start there. I type docker run to create and start a new container. I type --detach so that it runs in the background. I type --name and give it a name so it's easy to find and use later. Then I type --env to set an environment variable inside the container. I'm setting the variable mysql_root_password to my-root-pw. Of course, you'll make your database password much more secure. Finally, I type mysql:5.6 to use the official MySQL Docker image at the version tagged as MySQL version 5.6. Now I'll press enter to create and run the container. Docker returns a long hexadecimal string, which is the ID for the container that's now running. Now we need to create a container to run WordPress itself. I type docker run to create and start a new container. I type --detach so that it runs in the background. I type --name and give it a name so it's easy to find and use later. I type --link and the name of my MySQL container to link the two containers together. This allows WordPress and MySQL to communicate as if they were on the same network, but doesn't expose MySQL to the public. I type --publish to expose certain ports of this container to the public. First, I type the port I want to be publicly available. I'll use 8080. Then I type a colon and the port the container is exposing, which is 80. Finally, I type WordPress, the name of the official WordPress Docker image. Now I can type docker ps to see that I have both WordPress and MySQL containers running. I can type docker port WordPress 80 to show the IP address and public port the WordPress container is mapped to. Now I can copy this address into my web browser. When I do this, I see the WordPress install wizard and can set up and begin using this WordPress site. So there you have it. In just a few minutes, we've installed Docker, signed up for Carina, created our first cluster, and deployed a simple web app. You've now gone from zero to hero on Carina by Rackspace.